Good morning, gang. Joyce with Skipping Cash Farms here. Just as a kind of closure on this morning's um, interesting interlude with the sheep. Boy, you gotta feel really dumb when you've been outfoxed by a couple of sheep. So I guess I'm gonna have humble pie for lunch. Anyway, um, that is the one challenge with having sheep that are so socialized. Sometimes I'll turn my back on them and they follow me and I don't realize it. And that's a little awkward. Um, what I wanted to do was show you what I did do here to resolve the issue. I had taken and put this reel across at this end of the lane. I just used just a little bit slightly different technique for hooking up the reel. It was real quick and easy. I just came across on 5, hooked around 6, came up to 7, and made that little loop between 6 and 7. I just hooked the reel on that with one hook. I know the sheep aren't going to come down the lane and bump it because I've also closed off the other end, and which I did with the geared reel. Also, if you can kind of see, there's just a little bit of slack in this line. And I wanted to show you a technique that I learned from Greg Judy. He shows it on his videos. He teaches it in his grazing school. And let me see if I can show that to you. I think Mama thinks I'm talking to her when I'm talking to you guys, because she's right over here again. So what you can do is basically all you're going to do is turn. Hi, Mama. How you doing, sweetie? Did you get a little upset with me this morning because you didn't know what we were doing? Did I get you confused because I'm talking? You just go ahead and eat. So let's say you got a line here, and see if you can see. There's just a little bit of slack. You can kind of see it here. In fact, we'll use this line instead. This line at the end, you can see a little bit of slack here. And let me come inside the paddock so Mom will feel a little better. Okay, Mama, you keep eating. You have a good breakfast. You have a good breakfast, okay? Yeah, you have a good breakfast. All right, so you can kind of see there's just a little bit of dip in that line. Well, I'm going to walk up here to this yellow step-in. This is one of the old non-branded white step-ins. And I broke a clip on it a few days ago. You can tell it's a fresh break because look at how white that is. Well, it's not coming quite on the camera like I can see it in my eye. But all I did was I grabbed the top of the post like this to pull it up, and because these hooks are not flexible, they're brittle, it just broke off under my hand. So let me show you the difference between that and this new yellow O'Brien. Now I was putting some significant pressure on that clip and it wasn't moving. But look at this. It's moving and it's not breaking. That's the advantage of the elasticity. Now sometimes it's kind of tight. I don't know if this one's real tight, so I'm just going to assume it is. This is a technique that I've used when I'm going and picking up step-in posts, especially if they've been in the ground for a while or it's gotten dry. They'll be hard to pull out. What I've discovered is if you just take your toe and see how I'm coming in at a 45-degree angle and just tap it a couple of times like that, And then the technique that Greg Judy uses is just lift it up partially, just an inch or two, and then you twist it. And as you twist it and then step back down on it, there's a little hook at the bottom of that foot, and it'll keep it from twisting back. And that just took all that apparent slack out of that line. So that line is now level and taut. And that's a really good way of tightening a long line, especially if you've got a long run. You can just swing by and just twist it. So then why would I use the shoelace effect, or the shoelace technique that I use? Well, I'll tell you. Because I'm dealing with fewer animals and smaller spaces. And what I want to be able to do is to kind of, when you're dealing with smaller spaces, you're dealing with lots of corners. And when you're dealing with lots of corners, you're always going to have a little bit of give from those step-ins over time. They're going to loosen up just a little bit, like you can kind of see in the alley and the outside perimeter there. But because I use the shoelace technique, it doesn't get super loose, because when you do a shoelace, it steadies that pole. It keeps that pole from moving this way or this way. It'll still come forward a little bit, but it keeps it steady this way. So if you do have a little bit of loosening on one side, it's going to get tightened on the other. And so it's still going to stay fairly snug. It may have a little bit of sag to it over a period of time, because these step-ins have been in for almost a week. And if you look, let me tell on myself here. Let's see if you can see this. You see that blue step-in and the yellow ones, there's just a slight sag to that line, but it's still tied within a couple, 4 step-ins or so. Because that dry area right there is where they drive in and out. It's impossible to get a post in real snug and tight. So there's a little bit of sag right there at the top, but I've got it shoelaced at this side of the driveway, and I've got it shoelaced at the other side of the driveway. So the rest of it is staying pretty good. And there's no way to keep it super tight across the top, because you can't get the step-in all the way down. So it is going to flex just a little bit. Now that's just me. That's just my context. I'm dealing with clay soils. I'm dealing with a few animals. I'm dealing with lots of angles. I'm dealing with sometimes having something put in and staying there for a number of days, as opposed to moving the fencing every day or twice a day or whatever. So you just got to figure out how to make things work for you. Part of what I'm trying to do with my videos is not just tell you what I'm doing, but explaining to you my thought process. Because you know what? What I think really doesn't matter. What matters is learning how to think, so that no matter how the context changes, you understand the underlying principles of why you're doing what you're doing. Once you understand the why, the who, what, when, and how will fall in place if the motivation's strong enough, right? So, so I had a little bit of fun this morning with the sheep outsmarting me again. Hopefully it won't happen for a little while, but it probably will. And I'm not going to try and hide it. So with that, gang, I will wish you again blessings for the day and just keep chasing the dream.